Chairman, Ms. Muniz, Mr. Starr, why does the Overseas Building Operations and the Bureau of Diplomatic Security rely on unpublished draft memorandum rather than federal law and the Foreign Affairs Manual to determine when to begin construction on facilities?
I'm not sure I understood your question correctly. I think it was, why do we rely on our published policy versus law?
Unpublished draft memorandum.
I would say that we rely on the law when it comes to certifications to Congress. I would turn this over to Mr. Starr.
Sir, if there's in terms of certification, I agree with the Inspector General that we have a section of the FAM that's out of date, that is actually saying something that's different than public law. If there's any question about what takes precedence, it's public law over the Foreign Affairs Manual.
Well, then what is your response to the OIG's finding that the use of the draft memorandum without telling anyone is likely to mislead audiences, including Congress, who expect the Department to follow its published policies?
Sir, the public law requires us to certify to Congress that the facility resulting from the construction project is going to be safe and secure for our national security activities, our classified information, and our people, our personnel. We are providing a facility in line with that certification that is safe and secure for our people, our national security activities, and our classified information.
Well, my concern is, as the OIG's report points out, is that it's likely to mislead people, including Congress. And I want to go put the slides back up that Mr. Chairman that had up at the very beginning of the hearing on the construction project. And, Ms. Muniz, you made the argument that that's not construction. I worked for 2 international engineering companies, engineering construction companies. And there are times when you could separate the site work from the overall contract where it could be contracted out. But having worked in engineering construction, I can assure you that site work is part of the construction, but even more importantly, when you're setting piles, it's absolutely critical to the construction process. And I think you made the assertion that that's not construction. Frankly, I was astounded when you said that. It raises questions in my mind, your competence in your position.
I'd like to be clear about the Department's position on this. So first of all, with respect to this photo was taken after certification.
Before you go any further, are you saying this is the Department's position that setting the piles and doing the basic foundation work is not part of the construction?
The Department, what I explained is that the Department has allowed for years, since 2003, the construction of piles up to pile caps in advance of certification. That has been common practice for over 10 years.
If you do that, does this not result in substantial numbers of change orders when you haven't certified the building and you find out later that the foundations are not sufficient? I think there's been some issues with that.
We have not found that, and we certainly have not found that in the case of London.
I'm talking about overall, and because I think there are issues with exceeding the budgets, having numerous change orders. I think there was some issue with a couple of things you wanted to put in the building that you couldn't put in because you found out that the building wouldn't support it.
I'm not sure which project you're referring to. That's certainly not the case in London.
Well, my point about this is that you come in and listening to the chairman's questioning and you argue that or assert that the setting of the piles is not part of the construction progress and that you admit that you have done a lot of this work without certification of the building, which raises questions to me that if the building's not been certified, that it leaves the door open for design changes that do impact the construction costs. And I think that's one of the problems that we have in trying to make sure that the taxpayers' interests are protected. Not only that our employees who depend on these facilities for their protection are taken care of, but that we take care of the fiscal aspect of this as well. I mean, you know, we're deficit spending every year, and certainly it's not totally due to cost overruns, and this is something that I'm finding throughout the federal government, but it is a problem here. And listening to some of the other questions been asked about some of the inadequacies that are not being addressed, and we're spending, I think, millions of dollars having to address issues of design changes and change orders and other aspects of construction projects. And again, frankly, for someone to assert that setting the foundations and driving the piles it's not part of the construction process raises serious questions in my mind about the qualifications of the individuals that make those assertions. I've gone over my time, Mr. Chairman. Thank you. I yield back.